this is part 1 of words that you need to know in order to be successful in Unit 4, the Constitution. So by now you should have copied some definitions, and now you are listening and following along with the video and answering questions at the different checkpoints. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first word is tripartite government. This is shared by or involving 3 parts. The different parts are referred to as branches in our government. And so think of like triangle, right? 3 sides. Tricycle has 3 wheels. So tripartite means it has 3 parts. And so we actually got this idea from the Romans. They had a tripartite government. And so our Constitution set up a government that has 3 parts, which we call the 3 branches. And these are the legislative, executive, judicial, right? And then legislative is made up of Congress, which has the House of Reps and the Senate. Executive is the president and vice president and then his cabinet. And then we have the judicial, which has the Supreme Court. And so if you notice, a lot of these are some of your vocab words already. We also have checks and balances. This is each of the 3. This means that each of the 3 branches can limit the powers of the others so that one branch doesn't become too powerful. Okay, so this is kind of like checking each other to make sure that one is not out of line, and also balancing the powers within them, right? And so each branch can check and balance the other so that not one group can make more decisions or have more power than the other, right? So like if one makes a decision, another one checks it and says no, then it's not going to go through, right? So this was put into place to make sure that not one thing in our government would become too powerful. Okay, then our first branch, or one of the branches, is the executive branch. This is headed by the president. He is responsible for carrying out or enforcing the laws that are passed by Congress, right? So this is the president's seal. We know that a president serves a term of 4 years. They can serve up to 2 terms. They're also in charge of like the military, right? But they're responsible for making sure that like laws are being enforced, right? That they're being carried out in our country. Okay, so that would be that one. Our next is the legislative branch. This branch is known as Congress, and it's responsible for making the nation's laws. So legislative kind of reminds me of the word legal, which reminds me of the word law, which reminds me of like papers, right? So it consists of 2 parts. There's the House of Representatives, and then there's the Senate, right? So they are responsible for writing the laws, and their work is up in the U.S. Capitol building, right? Like the president lives in the White House. The legislative branch of the government, or Congress, works in the U.S. State Capitol. Okay, then we have the judicial branch. This is the court systems of local, state, and federal governments. They are responsible for interpreting the laws. So this is all the courts in the U.S., like from the small city all the way up to the Supreme Court, right, which is the greatest power in the judicial branch. Okay, and so they need to interpret the law. They need to judge or decide if a law has been broken or not, and what is the consequence or not. So think like judges, court system, like this little gavel, a balance for justice. All of that has to do with a judicial branch. Okay, so this is the end of part 1.